Hello again, YouTube. My name is Bree, and in today's video, I am starting Birdtober 2022. So just as a reminder, I did a Birdtober event last year in which I painted all of the birds in this tiny sketchbook along with a few others over the course of October. I do have all of those birds in this sketchbook available on this channel under the Birdtober playlist, which will be linked below. So if you're interested in seeing these, or those, you can see them there. I also plan on doing a sketchbook tour when I finish Birdtober this year, however many I do of all of my little bird sketchbooks, so we'll go through them in more detail then if you don't want to watch all of the prior videos but want a closer look at the ones I just quickly breezed through. Otherwise, I'm going to be working even smaller this year because apparently working at 2 inches by 2 inches was too large for me last year. So I will be working in this even smaller sketchbook made for me by my friend Spofgh, as always. And this one uses Bockingford Watercolor Paper. It's a cellulose paper and it is fantastic, even working at this scale. So the palette there is the Etchr miniature palette. I bought it as a travel palette, but something about working on tiny birds and using a tiny palette it feels right. So we'll get started using that. Some of those colors are really low, and I'm not really sure I want to refill it with the same colors or wait and clean that palette and redo it. I have no idea what I'm doing. We'll figure it out when the time comes. So, getting started, I am using the Kayla Fisk Birds prompt list. That was the official Birdtober prompt list last year that I didn't know about until, Birdtober was a good way over. So we're going to follow the official prompt list as best as I can this year, and the first prompt was the last bird you saw. Now my goal for this challenge is to paint birds that are from my local area as best as I can. There are some that will move out a little bit further, but all of them are going to be Florida birds. And for this one, I modified it slightly because my goal is also to not repaint any of the birds I painted last year. So the last bird I saw would have been a mourning dove. However, I painted that last year because I went for the most common birds in my area. So I didn't paint a tricolor heron last year, so I'm painting one today. I last saw one just a few days before, so it wasn't that big a change anyway. And yeah, so I guess it's time to dive into my Bree's Bad Bird Facts, which was another staple of the prior videos. They're not necessarily bad facts, it just feels right to say it that way. So maybe it's brief bird facts, I don't know. So I don't really have too much to say about the tricolor heron. They're named for 3 colors, the blue, the white, and the kind of chestnut they have on their back. However, they are actually far more vibrant than that, and I don't know why it was limited to 3. Even if you ignore the fact that their beak and legs are yellow, they do have a lot more color. I think in their non-mating, that's when you see just the blue, white, and chestnut in their feathers. However, when they preen, they get all fancy for their mating season. They do add like some reddish purple in their neck, and then sometimes they even get even more vibrant. So this bird's kind of starting to develop its purple plumage on its neck, but in addition to that, the yellow legs tend to turn pink, and the beak goes from yellow to a really indescribably vibrant blue. It's spectacular. I had only seen that for the first time earlier this year, and it was so unexpected. I immediately had to look it up. I'm like, this isn't the same bird. This is a different bird. It was stunning. So I'm quite fond of these birds. Beyond that, let's see. I think I generally said everything I wanted to say about this. I don't have that many facts for them. They are generally silent birds, like many herons. They're wading birds. I believe they actually can nest in trees and shrubs, but I generally just see them wading about the lakes, getting food from the lakes, eating little fish and stuff. So I don't really have much personal experience with these birds. I know for last year I would tell some stories about interactions I had with them or things I saw them doing, but I don't really have anything for this guy. He's just pretty and I like him. So before moving on to the next bird, since this part of the video is still going, and since I already mentioned Florida, I know the elephant in the room is Hurricane Ian. So I am on the east coast of Florida, and while the track did go directly over my county, we were lucky that it was definitely not as strong a storm by the time it hit us. We did get some hurricane force winds, while it was still kind of in central Florida. And then by the time it got to us, it was a tropical storm. We did have about 2.5 days of rain, which was made worse by the fact that we'd been getting rain pretty much the prior 2 weeks straight. So we were heavily saturated. My county had a lot of flooding and just general wind damage. Like, we had trees down, but nothing severe. So my heart goes out to all the people who have had it far worse. The photos from the West Coast are absolutely horrific. And just in defense of Florida, these events don't happen as often as you would think. When hurricanes hit Florida, there's so many places it can hit, and it affects specific communities really badly. So please don't be critical of people who choose to live in Florida, because like where I live currently, we're on the coast, and the last bad hit we had was many, many years ago, and it was not a major hurricane. So these things happen. It's an act of nature, and I just hope the best for everyone who is affected, worse than me, which is a lot of people. And there's been a lot of negativity I've seen online about the people who live in these places and stayed. They had very little notice. A lot of them probably would have left had they had more foresight, if they knew it was going to hit them. And it's just a bad situation. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And it's about time to move on to the next bird. I did make a few tweaks to this one after I stopped filming it, just because I was having a hard time seeing it and my finger was getting a little tired holding him. And yeah, I definitely need a new camera because it is hard to capture something at this size. My footage isn't even clear for normal paintings I do anymore. I have to use some sharpening tools on my footage. So yeah, I'm gonna get a new camera soon. I'm just not sure precisely when, but I'll give you a little closer look at the finished bird before moving on to the second one, who is already there. So the second prompt for this prompt list was blue, which is actually quite a few birds in this area. My first thought was to do a scrub jay, but there is a prompt a few days from now that is a locally endangered bird. Sorry, water break. Locally threatened bird. And for me, that would be the Florida scrub jay. So he's coming in a separate video. We'll see, probably just on Instagram. In the meantime, I decided to do the blue jay because for whatever reason, I've never painted a blue jay before. My first regret here is that I guess because the prior page had the background in a cerulean and it really dries down a lot later. I went in way too strong with the background on this one, and I did not mean for it to be quite this punchy, and so just staring at that super vibrant bold green for the rest of this one, it really bothered me. I had trouble with this bird. I had trouble making him pop. I just wanted to do more with the variation in the colors of blue, and I really struggled with him. I think looking back on it, he turned out fine, but can't really tell he's holding a peanut. His feathers aren't as distinct as I wanted them to be, but it's okay. It's 45 minutes. I think I spent maybe closer to an hour on this one because I was noodling. I'm trying to keep him down to like 30 to 45 minutes. It's a little tiny sketch for a daily event. It's fine. So for blue jays, we actually do have two different species, or rather subspecies of blue jay that live in my area. So they're the same family, genus, species, and just a different subspecies. One is a year-round resident, and one is they come down for the fall and winter. So yeah, two different birds that basically look the same, but are somehow different. My little bird book didn't distinguish between the two, and I didn't really have time to do more research, unfortunately. So jays are in kind of like the corvid family, so they do share some traits with corvids. And if you've been here before, you know I'm a big fan of corvids. So they have the same type of like intelligence, the really nice plumage, though I gush about all bird plumage, so I don't know if that really means anything. They are very resourceful, and they're also vocally diverse. So like blue jays, along with their own noises they make, they can also mimic the noises of hawk and osprey. So, a little interesting tidbit there. They also have corvids' trademark aggressiveness, so they don't have a problem harassing much bigger predators, including the great horned eagle. They'll just gang up on them and harass the crap out of them, keep them out of their area. They also feed on eggs and even like nestlings out of other birds' nests, so they're kind of jerks in that way. But yeah, as I like corvids, I like jays. I don't know if my throat's feeling dry and itchy because I just got a little emotional earlier about the whole storm situation, or just because it's been a long week, been a long couple weeks. So yeah, I don't have too much to say about blue jays either. I see them not infrequently, but they're not a constant resident of my area, so I'm always excited when I see them. I see scrub jays even more rarely, but I know I've seen them here before, so I wish I saw them more often, but I guess if they're just going to harass the other birds, It's funny to read up on corvids and see how they're known for being aggressive and harassing, because I see our crows get chased away by grackles all the time. So I know grackles aren't in the corvid family, but they have no problem harassing and mockingbirds too. Mockingbirds three of them will just chase after crows, which are much larger than them. I don't know why that is. I've seen the same thing against like hawks and stuff. You think they would just snap at them. Something to research for another time. But yeah, so I just really struggled with the gradients here. Even though I have a lot of colors, it kind of is easier to not... When you want something vibrant, it's easier when you just have that color there. And when you don't have that perfect color, it can be a little frustrating. I really was hoping I would be able to hit those gradients a lot more easily than I did. Which would have helped me save time on that whole hour-long limit, 45-minute limit, which I absolutely didn't hit here. I also had to go in with the white gel pen and then kind of paint over it a little bit to bring back some of the white spots I lost and some of the lighter colors I lost. I did try to get those little stripy markings in. I kept putting some of them in at the wrong angle, so I would kind of lift them up and try again. Tricky little bird, and unfortunately you can't really see where his beak's open. I'll have to paint a blue jay again sometime when I have more time and can really take on the challenge of their markings, because they're interesting, they're unique. I need to pay more attention to some of these birds I don't see as often, because I can learn from them. So I should be finishing with this one any moment. I'm just ready to be done with it. I don't want to look at it anymore. But yeah, I think between the amount of detail in this bird and the size of the paper, I definitely struggled a little bit more than I expected, but that's okay. The next one went much more smoothly and took me much less time. So if I spent an hour on this guy, I spent half an hour on the woodpecker that will follow it. So spoilers, the next prompt is woodpecker. I really don't have anything else to ramble about. Just finish up, bird. So yeah, like I said, or maybe I didn't say, because I did have to restart because I accidentally deleted my audio when I paused it when my cat came in and started being loud. So, oops. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to follow the whole 31 days. I'd love to do it again, but I just know that I'm really busy. There's a lot going on, and with the addition of, unexpected things like the storm and work events, it just got me a little bit more worn down. So I'll do what I can, and if I don't finish this challenge, I'm not going to fret about it. Things happen. It's just fun in the meantime. I do hope to be able to do it all. I really like the prompt list, so even if I don't finish it in time, I might still continue with it kind of more on my own time, because yeah, an excuse to learn more about and paint more local birds. So I'm happy about it. And the prompt list, it doesn't have to be local birds. It's just really, some of them are really general prompts like blue. It's just about doing whatever you want. I just added the extra bit about the local birds because I like to learn about the birds in my area, so that when I see them next time, I recognize them more easily and I remember more about them, and I could connect with them a little bit more. Even though they don't feel that way about me, I feel that way about them. So Gotta paint more ducks. I've been seeing more ducks lately. I'm so glad the birds made it through the storm okay. So yeah, there we have a little blue jay and a little tricolor heron. So on to the final prompt, which is woodpecker, the final prompt for today. The woodpecker I chose was the red-bellied woodpecker, and you'll notice very quickly that I do not give him a red belly because they don't all have them. So we already have another woodpecker called the red-headed woodpecker, and as I'm looking more into it, it seems like almost, or let's just leave it at the vast majority of woodpeckers have red on their heads. Another thing I'd like to look into later is why that is, but I don't know right now. This particular one, though, is the most common woodpecker in Florida, so they're pretty much everywhere in the state, and they're the one I see most often in my area. I didn't look up how to pronounce this. They have, some of them have this thing called xanthochromosome, which, apologies, but it's a lack of pigment, and in those cases, the red that appears on their head and sometimes on their belly instead appears more yellow. So in those cases, it's still the same bird, it just has a different appearance. The general markings are the same, the color varies. So basically they're named for a patch that doesn't always appear on their stomach. So it is a red patch, and even my bird book shows it with the white belly, so I'm assuming that's far more common. But even in cases where it is present, oftentimes apparently it is faded. So apparently this bird was named for a patch that most of the time doesn't appear like it was named to be. A little bizarre. But they make a rolling churn noise, and the female has like a little gray patch on the top of her head, but otherwise looks pretty similar. So if it's the same looking bird with just a little gray toupee look, it's just a female red-bellied woodpecker. So yeah, the odd thing about these is I think I've seen them most often in the trees in the Target parking lot and not like anywhere where it's more woodsy. So I don't know why that is, but I've seen them quite a few times. I like them. They're just pecking away at their little trees, getting their bugs. They're also, being woodpeckers, cavity dwellers, so they live in little nests in the tree. Woodpeckers, I think, both peck just to make homes, but it's primarily they're just trying to get food. I don't actually know if they make holes that way. I said that, and I have no idea. They might just find existing cavities and move in. I'm not really sure how those type of things are built. See, this is why they're bad bird facts. So this one, like I said, went really smoothly for me. I had a lot of fun painting him. I just hit my mic. Hopefully it's okay. But the background wash was a lot more satisfying. I was paying a lot more attention to making sure I didn't make it too saturated, but I figured it would work either way because the red head would just pop more and the black would stand out enough. And then I tried not to make the tree too bold because I wanted the bird to shine. I really enjoyed painting around those white spots on the wings. I do go back with the white gel pen to add a little bit more spots, but yeah, that just went better than expected. And I love his little red head and the reflected light on his little belly. I just enjoyed this one. And like I said, it felt like it went pretty smoothly. Hopefully, as we are now into the work week, the rest of them can continue to go this smoothly so I could focus on everything else I have to do during the week. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this video. I hope you're doing well. So if you're doing any October challenges, Inktober, or one of the numerous ones created by other creators, let me know. I'm curious to know what you're up to. Otherwise, I'm not sure what the next video will be. Probably some more birds. We'll see. And then in November, we'll return to the normal activity, whatever that may be at this point. So yeah, hope you're all doing well, taking care of yourselves, and with all that, I will see you in the next video, probably with a few more birds that I just had fun painting, probably over the weekend when I had more time to film them. Don't want to stress out too much about this. So yeah, one last look at those birds for this month, and this week, and I will see you later. Take care. Bye.